All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to look at two spiritual paths that, on the surface seem like they're from completely different worlds. We've got this rugged, kind of wild journey through the deserts of Mexico, and then you have this super disciplined practice inside monastery walls. But here's the thing, as we're about to see, they are really just two different roads leading to the exact same destination, a state of total freedom. So check this out. On one hand, you've got the sorcerer, Don Juan Mates, talking about the hardships of learning. Then on the other hand, you have the Buddhist training, which demands that people relentlessly exert themselves to not relax their energy. I mean, the language is totally different, right? One is so earthy and rugged. The other is very disciplined. But just listen to the tone. It's that same steely resolve. It's this shared understanding that this journey, it demands everything you've got. Total, unwavering commitment. And that really is the central question, isn't it? A sorcerer out in the desert, a monk in a quiet monastery, what on earth could they possibly have in common? I mean, their worlds just seem worlds apart. And yet, what we're going to find is that the actual architecture of their journey is almost identical. So what's the answer? Well, here's the key. Think of both of these paths as training manuals, but they're for the exact same operating system, human consciousness. Yeah, they use different languages, different metaphors for sure, but they are both designed to debug and ultimately upgrade the very same hardware. They're guides for getting beyond our default programming. Okay, so before you can upgrade any system, right, you have to know what its limitations are. You got to see the bugs. And that's exactly where both of these paths begin, by diagnosing the core problem, by identifying the prison that really we're all born into, the prison of the self. And let's be clear, this prison, it's not made of bars and stone walls. The journey to freedom doesn't start by looking for some escape hatch out there in the world. Nope. It starts by turning our attention inward, to the very architecture of our own minds. So, what is it? What exactly is it that keeps us trapped? Well, for Don Juan, the diagnosis is just crystal clear. He calls it self-importance. You know what that is? It's that nagging, persistent feeling that our story, our feelings, our dramas are the center of the whole universe. He uses this fantastic metaphor. He says we're like a horse with blinders on. And when all you can see is yourself, the sheer mystery and wonder of the world around you, it's just completely invisible. And this is where things get really fascinating, because the descriptions align almost perfectly. On one side, you have Don Juan's average man, always offended, always complaining, totally trapped in his own head. And on the other, the Buddha's mental hindrances. I mean, the parallels are just striking. Think about it. Being offended by everything, that's just another way of talking about greed or distress. All that complaining and self-pity, that's a classic symptom of conceit. It's the exact same diagnosis, just in a different language. So, okay, if self-importance is the prison, how do you break out? Well, this next part is all about the training. This is where the real work begins. It's about forging the tools and, honestly, enduring the trials you need to master your own mind, to become an inner warrior. And you gotta understand, escaping this prison isn't like flipping a switch. It's a series of battles. Both traditions lay out this really clear path of challenges you have to face. And get this, they aren't external monsters you have to slay. No, all the enemies, they are internal. Don Juan gives us this absolutely brilliant framework for this whole process. He calls them the four natural enemies. First up, you face fear. If you can conquer that, you gain clarity. But that very clarity becomes your next enemy. If you defeat that, you get power. And oh man, power is the most corrupting enemy of them all. And if somehow you master it, you come face to face with the final, invincible enemy, old age. So how do you beat that first enemy, fear? Don Juan says you just have to act in spite of it. You push through. And what's amazing is that the Buddhist training offers an almost identical tool. The whole goal is to cultivate a mind that stays stable, unafflicted, no matter what's happening to your body. That is the ultimate shield against fear. Okay, that second enemy, clarity, this one is subtle. It's that arrogance that creeps in when you think you've figured it all out. Don Juan warns that this is super dangerous because it just stops you from learning anything new. And the Buddhist path, it counters this with something called heightened discernment, which is basically a continuous, sharp-edged awareness that never, ever gets complacent. It never stops questioning. And then there's the third enemy, power. And this is the most dangerous of all. It's the one that tempts the warrior to become a tyrant. And the parallel here is just so profound. The Buddhist training is all about striking down conceit, which means eliminating the very ego that power loves to inflate. See? Both paths get it. True mastery isn't about having power over other people. It's about having power over yourself. So, once that inner battle is underway, the focus starts to shift. It's not just about what's going on inside your head anymore. It's about how you act in the world. How does a warrior who's training their mind actually live? Well, this is what we call the art of impeccable action. And yeah, this training isn't supposed to make you a hermit, isolated from the world. It's actually meant to make you incredibly effective within it. So the question is, what does this impeccable action actually look like? In real day-to-day life. Don Juan has a name for this practice. He calls it the art of stalking. And no, we're not talking about hunting animals. It's about stalking yourself, your habits, your weaknesses, your mindless routines. It's all about acting with deliberate, strategic purpose instead of just running on autopilot. He also calls it controlled folly, which is this amazing idea that you act as if things in the world matter, while knowing, on a much deeper level, that they don't. And this art is built on 4 principles, but each one has a really critical distinction. It's a fine line you have to walk. You've got to be ruthless, but with your own self-importance, not harsh to other people. You need to be cunning in your strategy, but never cruel. You must be patient, but not negligent. And you have to be sweet in how you act, but not foolish or naive. It's this incredible balancing act. And here we go again. The paths totally converge. These principles of stalking, they are practically a mirror image of Buddhist right conduct. Guarding the doors to the sense faculties, what is that if not patience and control? Not exalting ourselves or disparaging others is the exact same idea as being ruthless with your own self-importance. It's 2 different systems aiming for the exact same thing: impeccable, totally aware action. All right, now we're arriving at the final stage of the journey. After all the work of mastering the inner and outer worlds, the warrior has to confront the last enemy, the one that defines the very limits of our human life. This is where they realize the ultimate goal of the entire path. For Don Juan, this final enemy is simple and it's absolute: old age. It's the one battle you can never truly win. You can only fight it off, moment by moment. It represents that deep, unyielding desire to just rest, to give up, to finally let tiredness win. So, how do you fight an enemy you can't defeat? Don Juan offers a technique that is just stunningly powerful. He says that your death is always sitting just an arm's length to your left. And whenever you feel petty or impatient or self-important, you turn to your left and you ask your death for advice. The perspective it gives you is immediate. It is absolute. It just cuts through all the nonsense. And right here, at this final step, the 2 paths basically become one. The Buddha's counsel: to develop acute mindfulness of death in order to destroy the effluents, which is just another way of saying the mental poisons, like greed, hatred, and delusion. So in both traditions, thinking about your own mortality isn't some morbid, depressing thing. It's the ultimate tool for clarity. It's what forces you to act with purpose in the little time we have left. So what's the final destination? What's at the top of the mountain? For Don Juan, it's becoming a man of knowledge who has achieved total freedom. For the monk, it's the destruction of the effluents, which leads to liberation. It's different language for sure, but it's the exact same peak, a state of pure, completely untethered awareness. So in the end, you see, these aren't journeys to some physical place. They are radical transformations of your very being. They are 2 different sets of instructions for rebooting the entire operating system of human consciousness. And that leaves us with the exact same question Don Juan said every single warrior has to ask themselves: which of these paths has a heart for you?